Hi, I'm John Fluevog. I'm back at reading another little section of my book. So my parents met skating one day back in Alberta. Sigurd was 7 years older than Ruth, and both were ready to marry. In the end, they had 54 mostly happy years together. My mother was a good cook, generous host, talented seamstress, and a bit of a poet. My dad was a mechanic, quite smart, and so during the Second World War, he was sent to Bella Bella. Bella Bella. So nice, I named it twice, right? A remote village in the rainforest along the British Columbia coast to decode secret Japanese messages. My sister Karen was born up there. And after the war, they moved to Vancouver, where my dad opened his own garage near something called the Kootenay Loop at Hastings and Boundary. And he loved anything that had wheels on it. And so the cute little English cars are called Hillmans, and I've sort of inherited that love of cars and all things mechanical from him. At 52, and I was just at the age of 4, he opened up a soft serve ice cream place on a street called Kingsway in Burnaby, a suburb of British Columbia, and it was called the Luxury Freeze. Okay, don't snag that name, eh? Because I've got it registered on the internet. Just saying. Luxury Freeze is a great name. Drive-in. And it became a real scene. Everybody went to the Luxury Freeze. They go to socialize, and most of all to show off their cars. There was lots of custom cars loaded with fashion statements, like fancy grills and doodads and dingle balls. And cars were real status symbols in the 50s. You could be unpopular, but if you had a cool car, you could pretty much get any pretty girl to drive around with you. So my dad and I loved to share the love of cars. And at the same time, as a teen, I knew everything about every model that would pull into the drive-in. I guess that's how I developed a feel for the shapes and how cars made people feel. And that sort of got me, I think, going on in the fashion business. I spent a lot of time hanging out in the Luxury Freeze. My dad was basically my babysitter, and as I watched him work, I learned a lot from him, both on what to do and what not to do. He did everything by himself, never hired anybody, not the Fluevogian way, of course. And he considered evil to spend money when he could do it himself. Besides, he always thought that he could do he could do it better himself. And it wasn't always true, of course, but he did teach me the most important lessons of my life, was that if you wanted to do something, you just start. And there's nothing you can't really do if you just start. The Luxury Freeze was quite successful, and it was not just a business. It was a place where my dad could spread the gospel because, of course, he was still a good Christian, and my parents were a good-looking couple, and I guess they could have been a real power couple. Maybe they were in the 50s, but there wasn't such a word if they had wanted to. But everybody knew my dad. Everyone knew Sig. He talked to everybody, and by the time I became a teenager, that was super embarrassing to me, especially when he talked about religion. It embarrassed me that both my parents were religious, and I didn't want to be religious because I wanted to fit in, and people who were religious were weird, right? Our house was a non-stop train station, always full of teenagers, prayer meetings, and music. My dad played the piano, and music was a big deal in our house. He'd make us all sit around the piano at night and sing in 3-part harmony. I laugh when I think about it, but that's what we did. My two sisters were both good at piano. Me, I never really learned how to play. I was in a choir, though. In fact, a little known detail, I was the leader of the junior choir. It's crazy, but I was. Even though I wasn't very good in school, I did like band class, and my teacher took a shine to me, and I played the trumpet. I wasn't good at reading notes because of my dyslexia, but I was good at playing. I played the trumpets at events and weddings and church services, and I'd wail away on it, and people loved it. Who'd have thunk that I did that? I did. I always say it's a good thing I wasn't good at playing guitar, because I would have been in a rock and roll band and it would have been all downhill from there. Oh yeah. So there was lots of music around the Luxury Freeze. Buddy Holly, Everly Brothers, Little Richard. Of course, my dad wouldn't be playing those, but I heard it on car radios. I remember hearing Elvis Presley for the first time, "Don't Step on My Blue Suede Shoes" in 1956, and being really blown away by that. And maybe that's what drew me into shoes, I don't know. But there in 58, there was a fire at the Luxury Freeze. And even though my dad got plenty of insurance money to rebuild, the energy just went out of him. 2 years later, he sold it, and my family moved out to the suburbs in South Burnaby. And at the time, he went through a bit of a religious awakening, which was good, and not all that good. And I think I'll stop there. Seems like a good place to stop, and we'll pick it up another day. Thanks.